We left off talking about the power and the joule, and so now we're ready to move on to some more what should be review for you from 309. So dangers of electricity. Dangers of electricity. Oh yeah. Remember, kids, electricity will kill you. Oh, there we go. That's your danger. Because he has a knife. That's the funny part. All right. Can never remember how many people heard the story. I think everybody heard the story of why the Magnaflux won't kill you. Nobody's like, okay. So in this year, this semester, 306 and 7, we're going to be doing non-destructive testing, which will be in the non-destructive testing room. We're going to be doing Magnaflux, which is a machine that is going to be doing non-destructive testing, and to do non-destructive testing on a piece of steel, we're going to be putting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 amps through a piece of steel. And to keep the story short, having done it for many years where I used to work, it seemed like it never failed. There's a bar where you actually hit with your knee because your hands are busy, and I would be holding on to this piece of steel as my boss would walk in and lean against the bar. And the whole machine is, you see the needle just go to 2,000 amps. And I'm holding it, but I didn't die. So, but did you die? No, I didn't. And so when we bought this new machine, and I was talking to Magnaflux, makers of the machine, I said, I hate to ask a stupid question, but as I say, there's no stupid questions, just stupid people asking a question, which is what I was. And so I said, how come, why is it you can grab onto something like that with, thousands of amps running through it and you don't get hurt? And I knew part of the reason why is because, and you'll see in this class, is you're using transformers where you are taking voltage and you're dropping the voltage and increasing the amps to the point where there's very little voltage left and it's just all amperage. This is still the same amount of power, right? You're just changing it. You'll see that later. And so I knew there was very little voltage, and the guy said, yeah, there's so little voltage and you have such high resistance as compared to the part that you're Magnafluxing, which is just steel, carbon steel, that just doesn't want to go through you. He said, but if you could somehow get rid of your resistance, he goes, oh yeah, I would have killed you. So,
Oh, you said it didn't kill you, but did it hurt? Or?
No, you can't feel it at all. No, not even a tingle. It's, yeah, you can lick a 9-volt battery and you can feel it. You can't even feel that. So.
Not like a automotive where you got a lot of volts and no amps.
Exactly. It's all amps, no volts. Well, very little voltage. I say that, but yet it'll arc at you. I mean, if you especially camshafts, because they always have that coating on the end, you don't get a good contact with the braids on it, it'll throw an arc at you and it'll throw sparks at you. So there's got to be something there. All right. Yeah. So your body, and mine too. Your body has a lot of resistance. Has a lot of resistance. So it takes more than a few volts to cause current to flow. Oh, a calloused dry hand has about, I'll put that, a calloused, a working person's hand. So for those of you poor people who just sit at home playing video games all day, you don't have a calloused hand, so maybe your thumbs, so you're going to be one of the first to go. Dry hand may have more than 100k ohms because of a thick of dead cells. And you can see that when you grab the voltmeter, your ohm meter, and put it on times 10,000. Just grab it, you'll get your reading. So keep that in mind when you're actually trying to when you're holding your meter and a component. If it's on the 10,000, you'll read yourself in that equation. So don't do that. Also, I do notice a lot of you have a habit of touching the metal on the probes as you're touching your component. That's all fine and well while using a 6-volt battery, but you start using AC, you're not going to want to do that. We're going to be getting into some bigger stuff. You're going to get shocked. I'm going to laugh a little bit. You feel that? You're like, yeah. I'm like, well, get out of the habit of holding the metal ends on that thing. All right. So outside you have about 100,000 ohms. Inside, not so much. Internal body resistance is about 300 ohms. So that's not so much. All right, so 1 milliamp, so that's 0.001 of an amp. Tingling. Well, like licking a 9-volt battery if you've ever done that. 5 milliamps, 0.005 amps. Accepted as maximum harmless current. Question, I just came to my mind. How many volts would you need then for that to go through your hand? So how would I figure that out? I want to know how many volts.
Equals IR.
There you go, IR. So what is my resistance? 100,000. My current?
0.5 milliamps.
So how many volts did I need then to
Multiply the 2.
Well, yeah. But you got a calculator there?
Ah.
They want me to do it.
Professor.
So EIR. This is, of course, DC. Well, which way? What'd you say it was? 500 volts. Just trying to look around who would know the answer to this. James, how many volts is an electric fence? You know, if you were breaking into a yard or something.
I don't know, but I know a lot less. 500 volts.
I think so, yeah. All right, so 500 volts. What if you were talking about internal body? So,
2,000 to 10,000.
okay, 2,000 to 10,000?
Yeah.
My parents had a body shop, several of them, and a tow company. So I drove tow truck for a while, which was fun. Actually, it was. Anyway, you know, we tow a car in, and then, you know, as soon as you lock the gates and go home for the night, you know, the little people like cockroach would come in and steal everything out of the cars. So they put up a electric fence. I forget, there was signs, but I think it was like 10,000 volts. Yeah.
Like a taser.
So
1.5.
1.5?
Yes.
1.5 volts. Damn. So what does that tell you?
if you
Unique
push out
houses.
to 500 amps, it's going to do 500 volts, it's going to do 1.6 amps to your inside.
Oh yeah, it's gonna really screw your insulin. Once it breaks free, once you get that breakdown and it goes through, man, it's really going. Yeah, you really are. Oh.
How deep would that have to be?
Huh?
How deep would that have to be?
How deep? Depends on where it is.
You just have to open skin somewhere.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Once you break skin,
Who's got a cut? We can try it.
Oh, Lord.
This is science.
In hospitals, they try and
we'll call the EMTs and we'll get them over here first. Make sure it's safe, you know?
Just so somebody could.
Well, I was an EMT. You think I would know that? I'd be like, ah, cool. Let's try it.
in hospitals, they try and keep the linkage current from the equipment down to 10 microamps.
Damn.
Yeah. because people in ICUs have
Oh.
circuits directly to their heart.
Oh, yeah.
Effectively.
10 microamps. Okay. So that's real then, huh? Let's see. So that's, well, wait a minute. That's accepted. That's harmless right there. We could do it. So it's right there, harmless. Guys are a bunch of crybabies. Oops, too many zeros. 10 to 20 milliamps would be muscular contractions, inability to let go. I used to go to breakfast with some guys in the morning, and one of the guys, he's still around, just he doesn't go to breakfast anymore. He was an electrician for, I think, Lodi Utility, and went down in a trench to work on a high voltage wire, and they told him it was turned off. It wasn't.
Mm.
So, it killed him, and then he came back to life. He talks about that. It's a really weird story. So 100 to 300 milliamps. Ventricular fibrillation. That's your heart. Doesn't pump. It just starts fluttering. May cause. And then this one says 6 amps, which that's a lot. I'll shorten that. VFib. Ventricular fibrillation. Let me see. Respiration issues. Respiration paralysis. And burns. Not a good day. Oh yeah, my friend talked about like he had a burn here and a burn on his foot. In and out. All right. So there you go. Careful when you lick the batteries.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be pulling out batteries, car batteries. Anybody know what car batteries? They rate them in cold cranking amps. So
What size?
about that size. What do you think?
The 600?
Yeah.
Big range. These days.
What's that?
It's like a big range these days. Have like low cranking amps and a big battery, or whatever.
Yeah. There's that. Of course, then I don't know what's the voltage of an electric car?
What?
1,200, 12,000.
What'd you say?
What's the voltage of an electric car?
Oh,
electric.
Yeah, your battery pack.
Is it about 1,200?
I want to say it was 1,200. That's the number that stuck in my head, but I'm not 100% on that.
This is danger.
Yeah, and you guys should be glad because probably in another 2 years we're going to have to throw in electric aircraft systems, propulsion systems in this class. So just going to get longer. All right, series circuits. Series circuits. All right, so series requirement. What do we got? 4 things.
One path for electrons.
Conductor. Oh, I should have said power source first, but that's the way I've been doing it.
Load. Resistor.
Load, we'll call it load, or resistor, and but one path. Told you this week was going to be easy. All right, Kirchoff's law says current is the what? Same for the entire circuit. Which is I total equals I sub 1, which equals I sub 2, which equals I sub 3, on and on and on, assuming you have more than 3 items in there. And the voltage. the sum, which means addition, of all the voltage drops, equals the total source voltage. Which is to say, voltage total equals voltage sub 1 plus voltage sub 2 plus voltage sub 3, on and on and on. This is known as Kirchoff's law number 1. The algebraic sum of all voltages around a closed path or loop is 0. Another way of saying it, the sum of all the voltage drops equals the total source voltage. I'm just going to leave it as the sum of all the voltages drops equals the total, because that's kind of what I said. And then we have resistance. Named after Jean-Pierre Resistant. That's not true. The total resistance is equal to the sum of all resistance in the circuit. Sum of all resistance in a circuit. Which is to say, R total is equal to R sub 1 plus R sub 2 plus R sub 3, on and on and on. All right, that was the Ohm's wheel I was looking for the other day. So, you know what I'm talking about. If I haven't mentioned it already, so we are really strictly, I mean, we're just doing E, I, and R, right? And that'll get you N pi. E equals I times E. And using that, we can get I is E divided by R. We'll use that one. Power is volts times amps. I got that one. Volts is I times R, using that one, and R is E divided by I, So we're using only, what, 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 things right here, and it'll get you through your test. It'll get you through everything you need to know. And I find it just easier. All right. So you can trade with somebody, self-grade yours, whatever makes you happy. So solving this one is it different?
Yeah, instead of 15 volts, it should be 10.
Oh. Well, let me find the right one then.
Did you want power on these?
Yeah, did you want power as well?
Whatever you have on yours. Let me just find it. All right, so solving this one, which is probably this side of the room.
Ours has 10 volts.
Yeah, we'll do that one next.
Do that one next. Oh, I see, 10. Oh, we'll just make that 10. All right, everybody has 10? Anybody has something different? Nope, everybody's got 10, right?
There you go.
All right, there we go, 10. Okay, so what's the first thing you did?
Total resistance.
Only one thing you can do, all the resistance. So E is I times R. And, huh?
On this side. There you go.
Freeze frame. Good?
I
Good?
think that
Okay.
was frozen. Oh, no.
No, it's good. Your little dot going? All right. Okay, back to this. First thing, what do you do?
Total resistance.
Total resistance. So that's R total equals R1 plus R sub 2 plus R sub 3. Literally, so what is my total resistance?
150 ohms.
150 ohms. Next thing,
Solve for I.
solve for I. So I is E divided by R, and I total equals I1, which equals I2, which equals I3. So what is my I?
66.67 milliamps.
66.67 milliamps. How many amps is that?
0.067.
0.067 amps. So either one is fine.
Yes.
Take them both. Doesn't matter. Next step.
Fill in,
Fill in
for
I
all
for
the-
everything.
All right, fill in I for everything. So I'm going to go 66.67 milliamps. 66.67 milliamps. 66.67 milliamps. Next,
Solve for E.
solve for E. So E is simply going to be I times R. I times R. So this is going to be up here.
5 volts.
3.35 volts. Here.
5.695.
695 volts. 6 point. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
5.69.
Okay, 5.69. I got it right. Okay, so 5.7 would work. You don't have to worry about this. You could have put 3.4 up here. I'm okay with that. I hand to them. I can see what you're doing. And last here is 1.005 volts. Because now we want to stop there and double check everything. So I'm going to add up 1 plus the 5.6 plus 3.3, and we should get close to 10 because E total equals E1 plus E2 plus E of 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do we double check that?
Yes.
So 3.35 plus 5.7 plus 1 equals 10.05. So is that okay?
Yes.
Absolutely. Just got some rounding errors. And then last thing on here would be the power, which is power equals I times E. And power is what you should have in front of you. Huh?
66.7.
0.67 watts.
0.67 watts. Isn't it on your paper? Or you
It's not.
No, it's not.
Ah, then we won't worry about it. All right, so we're just going to multiply that. All right, so the big question is, everybody got 100?
Yeah.
Is anybody willing to say, I screwed this up and need more practice?
Do
I
it.
didn't round.
Yeah.
Just 0.67. I just put 0.66.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Just be careful with that. Doesn't make it wrong. Does not make it wrong. Put your name on it. Band it forward. Gets credit for that. Hopefully you didn't cheat. You can go ahead if you can put your own happy face on it. Save me the trouble. All right, one of your Q&A questions. If three resistors of 3 ohms, 5 ohms, and 22 ohms are connected in series in a 28 volt circuit, how much current will flow through the 3 ohm resistor? So I'm telling you, this is the way I would do that one. I would just get my paper out and I'd say, all right, so we gotta make it legit. There we go. So EIR, that's total. EIR of 1. EIR2, EIR of 3. 28 volts, 3 ohms, 5 ohms, and 22 ohms. At this point, I don't even care what the question was. I'm just saw what's in front of me. So, what do we got here?
Total resistance,
Yeah, what's total resistance?
30 ohms.
30 ohms.
Divide.
Next step,
Total current,
which is
0.93 amps.
0.93 amps. Should we convert that to milliamps?
No.
I wouldn't, because 0.93 is just way too easy to use right now. All right, so now what?
That's the answer.
I finish it. I don't know. That's just me. 0.93 amps. And I'll tell you why. Because I don't want to take this test twice. So now I'm going to do 3 times 0.93. 2.79 volts. 5 times 0.93 equals 4.65.
Helps check your work too.
That's what I'm doing. 22 times 0.93 equals 20.46. Now I'm going to add 20.46 plus 4.65 plus 2.79 equals 27.9. 27.9. Does this check out? Yes, it does. Do I have the right answer? Probably. Everybody's good with series?
Series good.
All right. That means parallel. Eight, parallel circuits. You guys are going too fast. Normally I would have to spend the rest of today doing series stuff. And then tomorrow, which is Wednesday, I would do strictly parallel, and then Thursday I would do series parallel. So I don't know what's going to happen now.
Kudos. Pizza party.
You heard me saying, wait, what? I get a series parallel. Nah, it's easy. Conductor. Power. Power source. Next is the
Oh,
load. And finally we have
more than one path.
2 or more paths, or more than one path for current. So current. Current is not the same. In the entire circuit, it is I total equals I sub 1 plus I sub 2 plus I3, on and on and on. Because that current's going to divide out, and it's going to have to go in all different directions. Unlike the series where current it only has one path, so what's flowing has to flow through everything. But, you know, it's like in water, you got a bunch of hoses hooked up to something, well, it's going to split and current's going to go out. Let's see, where was I? Current is not the same. Don't know why, but this is known as Kirchoff's law number 2. The sum of the currents into a junction or node is equal to the sum of the currents flowing out of that same junction or node. Voltage. Voltage across any branch. The voltage across any branch is equal to to the voltage across all the other branches. That's a terrible way of saying it. Voltage across any branch is equal to, I'm going to say the source voltage equal to, I know why that's a bad thing to say. All right, I'm going to go with what I wrote because is equal to the voltage across all other branches. Which is to say the voltage is equal to the other branches. Let me see, write this out and then I'll draw a picture. Voltage total is equal to voltage 1, which is equal to voltage 2, which is equal to voltage 3, on and on and on. And the statement is the voltage across, let's say the voltage across, I'll put a little voltmeter here, the voltage across any branch, I'll say this is branch 1, is equal to the voltage across all the other branches. Well, 1 is then equal to 2, which is equal to 3. And I was going to say equal to the source voltage. Would that be true in this case?
Yes.
In this case, it would be true. But if for any reason I had a resistor right here, then the voltage across 1, 2, or 3 would still be equal to each other, but not equal to the source voltage. So I want to make sure, and I'll show you that when we get to the series parallel.
Okay.
All right. All right. Resistance. As I've said before, there are several different formulas for finding the resistance. Oh, I did write them down. Well, look at that. I'll tell them to you. Resistance. Now, this should... My outline is a little screwed up here, so it's like point E should be in one, but all right. When resistors are connected in parallel, the total resistance of the circuit, this is a funny way to start it, decreases. So, in other words, this is kind of a funny thing to think about. Your car, aircraft, everything is wired in parallel. So, I take off my airplane, start it up tonight. I don't have it with me, but if I did, and get it started up, turn on the master switch, and I turn on the nav lights. Well, nav lights come on. That's a resistance, right? That's one branch. It's actually going to be 3 separate branches all on its own. And then, let's do that. So I turn on the nav lights. So in aircraft, we have the bus bar, which power comes into the bus bar. And off the bus bar, you're always going to have a circuit breaker or a fuse. And then you're going to have a switch. I only have one switch for the nav lights. And off that switch, it's going to go a red bulb, a green bulb, and a white bulb. How come they didn't just run them in a string? Yeah, if one blew out, then I'd be, they're all gone. All right, so I'm going to have a certain amount of resistance right there. Then I turn on the taxi light. Technically, I have a little circle around it. What happened to my total resistance of the aircraft? The load. It went down. How can I make it go down even more?
Add another.
Well, that was a taxi light. Now we'll turn on the landing light. Total resistance goes down even more from the aircraft. like any good pilot before I take off. Oh, I don't know the schematic for this one. Cigar lighter. Got to light my cigar before I take off, right? So it's going to decrease resistance even more. So every time I do that, it's going to decrease resistance again. But I think what else? We can leave it at that.
If we were to measure the individual resistance of each bulb or switch, it would increase?
Measure each one?
Yes.
No. So if I take a bulb and I measure it and I say, okay, we'll just say each bulb has a resistance of, we'll just say 100 ohms. Okay, if I take bulb number 1 out, how many ohms does it have? 1. Take one bulb out. How much is that bulb? What's the resistance of that bulb? Huh? That's right there.
100?
100. If I take out bulb number 2 and I measure resistance, it's how much?
The same?
That's 100. How about number 3?
100.
It's 100. How about 4?
100.
What about 5? Since you hesitated.
100.
Okay, so every bulb has 100 ohms. I just made that up. It's not true. They're different size bulbs. All right, but anyway, so make it easy. Each one has 100 ohms. So your question was, does the resistance of the bulb decrease? No, it does not.
Increase.
No, the resistance of the bulb is the resistance of the bulb. It never changes.
Okay.
I mean, that's not true. Bulbs change, but just like a resistor. So if I got a resistor out and I said, this is a 100 ohm resistor, and is there any way I can make it not be a 100 ohm resistor?
Break it.
Outside of breaking it, inside the circuit, what is its resistance? It's 100 ohms, right? It's got a color code on it. It says 100 ohms. You don't turn it over and it says only when installed in parallel or series, right? It's 100 ohms. Follow?
Yeah.
Well, I'm worried because you do.
I'm just looking at my notes, and the example that we did in 309 has the resistance getting higher.
Nope. Oh, you're asking a different question. You're asking if the resistance of the bulb changes. No, it does not. I mean, technically it does when it heats up, but that's not. The total resistance of the aircraft does, of the loads that you've added does. That's something different.
Okay.
But the component doesn't change. So when resistors are connected in parallel, the total resistance of the circuit decreases. So every time I add a component, what does the total resistance do? Goes down. We'll look at that in a little bit. F. The total resistance of a parallel I have weird things written. Circuit is always less than the smallest resistor.